Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having an incredible day or night in Jesus. We're looking at the apostolic history outlined by Marvin Arnold. He's got a picture of the upper room in Mount Zion here. And we're just going to go through some of this book, maybe multi-part series, give some information I know I've got written down in here, some things the amazing Marvin Arnold came up with, and have some discussion on this. So let me just read what he says here on page 5. Thanks for being here. And it says, this is an effort to gain complete reader confidence. It's necessary to know assuredly that the ancient religious bodies referred to as monotheistic were indeed oneness. Here's how we prove they were. We know that historians classified certain religious bodies as having been Monarchian, Patripassian, or Sabellian. This means they were recognized as being adherents of Deuteronomy 6:4, and thus they denied Rome's Trinity. Also, I would note that all three of those, at least modalistic monarchianism, Patripassian, and Sabellian, would acknowledge the deity of Jesus. Dynamic monarchianism, less so, more of adoptionist Christianity. Much debate on that. Also, I will say you can read many different histories, and some, just because of different studies, different finds they found, or lack of studies they've done in particular areas, will label something one thing, another one label it something else. So going and delving into the micro history is really the best way to do it. So we know also that Jesus' name water baptism was integral in these Bible-believing bodies. I will say as well, Jesus' name baptism was in Arian bodies as well, A-R-I-A-N, such as Clovis baptizing 4,000 people in Jesus' name, and Constantine, the emperor, getting baptized in Jesus' name, at least sprinkled or poured over, right before he died, some say after he died, in 336 AD or so. So let's just look at this. So Montanism, after Montanus, these were tongue speakers, had spirit gifts and knew miracles. And he gives the reference of Blunt, which you would want to see our church history recommendations that he has to look at that, what is meant by Blunt. They were characterized as Sabellians, having no divisions in the Godhead. John Wesley considered Montanism to be true biblical Christianity. That's found in Blunt and Knox. He gives the page references. So Montanism probably was not oneness at the beginning, but at some point the majority of Montanists became oneness, which, fascinatingly enough, Tertullian, who is considered by many the father of the Trinity, became Montanist later in his life. And I've got a book on Montanist gravestones and stuff and burial markers showing that. Also, like Northcote has Sabellian catacombs in Rome. That's from like 68 or something, 1742, I can't remember. Then Donatist, after Donatism, you hear that a lot if you study church history, a lot of the different councils, not just the 7 so-called ecumenical, but there were tons of councils all over the place. They were tagged as having been of Sabellianism or Patripassianism, holding a Judaistic Godhead concept, along with Acts 2:38 Christ baptism. That's found in Roland Baton, one of my personal favorite historians on any subject, really, Knox and Blunt. So again, you'll read Donatists were not apostolic many times, but he's got resources showing they were. Manichaeism, after Manichae, this is what Augustine was before he converted to Catholic Pentecost. Catholic Church, I'm reading Pentecost. They revered Pentecost, Jesus' name, Blunt 291. They were classed as having been Monarchians and of Sabellianism, Blunt 412, 413. At first it had a doctrinal stigma. They corrected the matter. The Samo-Satans, Artemanites, Donatists, Paterini, Bogomils, and other oneness bodies were associated doctrinally with Manichaeism. And after AD, and it says after AD 1800, not all Manichae were oneness. I wonder if he meant 180. You have to watch this. In this particular book, there is some typos. So I don't even know that there's Manichaees after 1800. Tom Weiser's done wonderful research on the Bogomils being oneness. And that's fascinating. So, like Vance Publications, you can get their classic reprint series on Bogomils, the Artemanites, and all this. So, Samosatan, after Paul of Samosatanism, Paul held the oneness of God without distinction of persons. That's found in Blunt. He was a Judeo-Christian holding Acts 2:38, Blunt, page 517. Now, most people would say Paul of Samosata was not oneness in a classical sense. He did not believe in the deity of Jesus, believe in adoptionism. He did seem to believe in the in the gifts of the Spirit. Need a drink. Believe in the gifts of the Spirit, singing. He seemed to be what would be called a charismatic. And probably, in all probability, baptized in Jesus' name. Chalfant has wonderful stuff on Paul of Samosata. Artemanite, after Artemanites, these were avid modalistic monarchians, again found in Blunt. Remarkably, this Jesus name religion lived on through the known dates of AD 1590 through 1633. In Europe, John Crilliot preached this Acts 2:38 doctrine. That's found in Blunt, page 54. And then one more, we'll look at this. Celtic Christianity, planted in Glastonbury, England, AD 3742, was apostolic. That is in M. Deasonley, the pre-conquest church in England. Celts disseminated Acts 2:38 religion all over Western Europe. J.T. McNeill, The Celtic Church, pages 10 and 11 and 156. They baptized into Christ. D.T. Thompson, page 108. Beatty called them one God people. Beatty's English History, page 148. And the Venerable Bede, he also said Acts 2:38 was the original mode of baptism. It was dominant in Western Europe until 1200. Now you have to remember the Celts, uniquely enough, study it yourself, came from Galatia. So that's pretty interesting. In relation, Catholic leaders referred to the above bodies as heretics. So did high Protestants. However, God raised them up so his Acts 2 Pentecostal doctrine could travel through them. Otherwise, Catholic leaders and those high Protestantism would have destroyed Acts 2 tenets. Now what you have to remember, you're dealing in days before rapid travel. Most people never traveled more than 20-mile radius from where they were born. But somewhere, there was sailors, there was Silk Roads and all this. But I'm talking about most people just never did. And you didn't have printing press, you didn't have electricity harnessed, nothing like that. So when you talk about Catholicism, you talk about a decree of Caesar or something, or the decree of the popes. I mean, it just was slow going to get that anywhere. And, the papal bulls, that's where the term bulls come from. The papal bulls, they would read, but a lot of people just ignore that, reject that. So there were thousands upon tens of thousands, probably in the hundreds of thousands of cities and villages. They just kept going with various types of Christianity, amongst which would be apostolic Christianity. That is a point of narrative macro history that is lost when you really get down into what was happening on the ground at particular times. Most people's minds can't think in those realms for some reason, but you have to if you're going to get an accurate view of history. So we're going to stop there today. God bless. Love you. Check out our other videos, variety of subjects. Join us daily. We love you. God bless you. Bye-bye.